Thank you. Good morning. It's my pleasure to start our session, the State of the School for the School of Medicine. It's an honor to be able to do this every year as Dean of the School of Medicine. It's a mandate for the faculties that we do this, so I'm just officially doing what I'm told, so hopefully it'll be useful and productive. It's a tumultuous year, I think we would all agree, and there's a ton to talk about, and so I have a ton of topics to cover. Don't be surprised. We have scheduled an hour and a half, so there'll be at least a half hour, but maybe not much more for questions, comments, and concerns. If you get bored, you've got a nice set of gloves and something to take a nap with, so please use it, and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm going to start with our mission, just to remind you who we are, what we are, and why. To improve health globally by linking groundbreaking innovation and research directly to patients and populations within a world-class medical education ecosystem. Now, this has changed a little bit. It's up on our website for our strategic plan, and I've gotten input over the years, and I really do believe as we move forward this year into a new strategic plan that we should have one that's dynamic and active, and so it has been. So to improve health globally starts locally, of course, but it's remarkable to me that we have the total is probably about 240 of our 8,000 full and part-time faculty are located around the globe and not just here in the city of Cleveland. And we do promote ourselves as a research medical school with groundbreaking innovation and research, and I'll be talking about that a little bit through my discussion this morning. And when I was interviewed by by Case Magazine for their fall edition about our strategic plan, I said we should really think about our efforts as discovery with an attitude, and the attitude is to help bring our innovation and research directly to patients and populations. So it's okay with me if you guys want to do some fundamental breakthrough, but figure out why it's important to patients and populations, whether you're in the laboratory or in the clinic or sitting in front of individuals with healthcare needs in our community. And I also think that the city of Cleveland is an absolutely remarkable area for medical education and research. So I'm going to talk about what's new about us at a leadership level, give you an update about our strategic plan, sort of where we came from, where we are, our current conditions, and then end with mapping out what we want to do for our upcoming strategic plan. So, Christy Short has taken over as Vice Dean for Development Alumni Relationship. I'm going to go through a series very quickly of our new, not appointments as much as leadership activities, and I'll let you read the details because if I don't, we'll be here for a long, long time. So I'm going to just point out roles for Jose, Shin, Ego, Julianne, Darren, new chair of anatomy, Peter, finally appointed as the chair director for Center for Community Health Integration, Nicole, and Cliff, who's taken over the chair of the basic science departments. Here are the active searches that are ongoing across our institutions. They're all at various stages, some of them quite active, some of them delayed. So where are we with our strategic plan? So this is the outline we've had of our strategic plan. The major elements, 6, are located on the right. And every year we've sort of taken it through a mild revision. So let me start with where we are in research. So here are the realities. We've wanted hard to build our research programs. We're a little behind, to be honest with you, compared to the top 10 schools in the country, all of whom you know. So those schools have gradually increased over that 5-year period, almost 17% of their NIH funding by Blue Ridge. We've gone up 1%, so we've dawdle along and haven't quite met the metric that we all want to do. So I think that's a conversation for us both today and for the next couple of years. How do we do better in our Blue Ridge and therefore in our research programs and activities? We desired to build our research faculty. I put a target of 10% over a 5-year period, which seems de minimis, 2% a year. We've grown full faculty, the full number of faculty by 3%, so we've done better than I asked and hoped, but our tenure track faculty hires, research-funded faculty, has been pretty modest. And some of that's resources that we have both here and provided through the university and across our hospitals. But the truth of the matter is, none of our 5 organizations has done a hard enough job of building our research faculty. So I think it's a priority for us, and we need to figure that out. In transdisciplinary research, we've made a good bit of progress. Our objective in our research plan was to expand collaborative efforts. We, in fact, have 7 or 8 new centers, which I'll go through in the next slide, a new Institute for Population and Community Health. We renewed the CTSC, and we've opened up the Institute for Population and Community Health at Midtown, and there's a picture of it there. So here are the centers over the past 3 to 4 years. Ken Remy leading the Center for Blood, Heart, Lung, and Immunology Research. Jake Scott, a Center for AI. Rose leading the Center for Child Health and Policy. And Jason and Shin leading a Center for Mitochondrial Research. The 4 others are Fabio Caminelli leading the Digestive Health Research Institute, Paul Tizar, Institute for Glial Sciences. We just had the first, hopefully, annual symposium for that institute yesterday, which was incredibly well attended. Erica has taken on the role of leading the Institute for Population and Community Health, and Martha leading the Neurologic and Behavioral Outcomes Center. So each of these 8, in addition to this quite large number of very active centers, provide opportunities across our departments, centers, and institutions to think about multi-investigator efforts and research programs. So we're here to help that happen. I have a meeting coming up very soon with Dan and Serpil to think about further investment in coordinating these efforts. We can do better. We do okay, but we can do better in multi-investigator grants, and these are the conduits to do it with. Here's some just examples of our major large awards. If I'm missing you and you should be on this list, let me know. But even more, I think a point to make is that we have more than 10 faculty whose careers here at Case, just here at Case, have exceeded income from their grants of $150 million. And if you add up all 10, it's $2 billion. If I asked the university president, if I asked the CEOs of our hospitals whether they're aware of that, they're not. So you're going to see me be a little more attitudinal about promoting the qualifications and impact of our faculty. And I've reached out just to confirm with about 12 people. If I haven't contacted you and you add up your own research funding, please let me know. I'd love to advocate for what you've all accomplished. But that number, $2 billion of outside money coming into this city from research efforts, is incredible and not recognized by the rest of the university or by the city. And if you're getting there, delighted. So in terms of real things, what does money give you? So we have, again, I think some remarkable accomplishments in our translational efforts. On the left-hand side are some major innovations. The MRI fingerprinting that Mark Griswold and Chris Flask and others in the Department of Radiology and BME have helped to develop is now gone worldwide. And I've seen recent data that's even more profound based on their new technology of how to provide a quantitative assessment of magnetic resonance. Amitabh Chak and his team are actively pursuing their esophageal cancer risk test in active ongoing clinical trials. It's approved for use, but I think once their data comes out on the impact that it has, it'll be even more, have greater uptake. And here's a list of some 10 or so early IND clinical trials approved by the FDA from inventions here that are ongoing in clinical trials both here and around the country. Some of them are national, some of them are international. So our discoveries are having major impact, as well as the sickle cell detection methodology that's active throughout Africa. And as I've said, we've had a large number of our major grants renewed, and we're in a good place. We just need more of them. In terms of the translational effort out into the community and commercialization, I just want to point out that I think we're quite ripe for further investment in these areas. These 4 entities and components at UH, Cleveland Clinic, and School and Engineering really help us bring concepts forward. And I've charged Bill Sheeman and his team to put together a series of discovery experts, a translational council, which we just met yesterday afternoon, which consists of folks who are in the venture cap biotech industry, who are alums and friends, to help us figure out how to move all of this forward. And I'm going to quickly go through some of the accomplishments that we've had, which frankly is remarkable for what it's done. So we've spent about $1.6 million of philanthropy over the past decade and turned that into the support for 36 projects that are well vetted. You can see active ones on the right-hand side, and you might see your name there. But a small amount of money rather for each project turns into a major impact. And what that has meant is that we have 15 options and licenses, 13 startup companies, which you can see on the right-hand side. Those that say NCT are those that are in active clinical trials now, either here or across the country. And so we are really capable of taking our discoveries from our laboratories through the early commercialization process into clinical activity for patient benefit. And the commercial investment that's been made here is huge, well over $1 billion. I get constantly asked how much of that comes back to us. And the answer is maybe 1 or 2%. But if a company is making $1 billion, or a set of companies making $1 billion investment, that's what we're supposed to do, help inventions move forward out to the clinic. And if our investigators benefit from it, great. But we shouldn't really expect that it becomes a funds flow back to the university, because it's de minimis when it happens. A few other details we have just in this past year: a large number of invention disclosures, IP, patent applications, patents issued, licenses and options. This amount of stream is actually pretty incredible, that we have this many startups coming out of our activities. And you can see the distribution between biopharma and devices. In the current year, Bill has put together LOIs that have resulted in 12 applications. 6 were reviewed by our advisory committee through the Committee to Advance Human Health. 3 were funded. Those are here. Marcine's in Stargardt's disease, Zheng Hong in liver disease, and Bieta in retinal degeneration. So those are on the upward trajectory as we move them forward. I'd also like to point out some longer-term efforts. Shigemi Matsuyama in Bisque Therapeutics, using a very novel BAX inhibitor to prevent retinal degeneration and blindness. Agata with her friends and partners in Visano with a microbubble technology for prostate cancer diagnosis. Suzanne in NeoIndicate, also with an IND that's been approved to begin to look at the extension of glioma throughout the brain to improve detection and ultimately come up with a better therapeutic. And the remarkable efforts, if I could, for Reshmi, who has partnered with Luminary Therapeutics and has active and curative, it looks like, clinical trials with CAR T therapeutics based on a novel protein application that she discovered. I'm spending time on this because all of us in the laboratories are worried about the future of our NIH funding. And this is an avenue beyond your funding at the NIH to think about how to bring your products more quickly to commercialization. So if I start on the left-hand side, we all know how to write grants, either to the NIH, the DoD foundations, in some cases through industry and local partners. We develop our research technology and capabilities. We file patent disclosures. And then it comes to this accelerator fund, which I've talked to you about, which provides a remarkably small amount of money to help validate what you've discovered, help us understand the drug, help us with drug synthesis, tool compounds to a clinical drug. That leads to the possibility of license interest, depending on where we are with the venture world, and ultimately early phase efforts that are $20 to $50 million, and perhaps $200 to $500 million, depending on how far you get. So I think we understand how to do this. I don't think we have to worry that a good idea will get lost in the shuffle. And as I said, a lot of this can flow back to help fund laboratory programs. I'm going to move on to a next piece of our strategic plan, which was to investing in and recognizing our faculty. And I'm going to go very quickly through well over 25 of our faculty who have been recognized this past year, and give a shout out to Lynn Singer, who quietly runs a committee that identifies the opportunity, writes the letter of support and letter of advocacy, calls faculty to be encouraged and be enthusiastic. So I'm going to show names. I'm not going to spend a lot of time describing each of these, so hopefully you can read faster than I can. So Walter, Tony, and Tommy and Karen had major national awards. Walter's International Award and 2 members of the National Academy of Medicine, which I'm delighted for. We need to increase the numbers of individuals in that society. Bob, Monica, Nick, and Lena received important awards. And I will point out that Lena received her award from the AAMC just this past weekend at their national meeting, and was recognized for her 15 years of service on the student support element of that society, which is in our medical education program. Clara, Keith, Dan, and Xiao were all recognized for major accomplishments in their discipline and area. And then some special awards. The Fulbright Award will allow Agata Exner to spend some time in Krakow, Poland, to do some special work. Jennifer was elected to the Council of the ASCI, and 2 members added to the National Academy of Inventors. 2 AAAS fellows, again, an area that we should pursue more proactively. Some of our best scientists, Withold and Jonathan, and Fabio was elected as the chair of the Colitis Foundation, and Tony Winchell-Boris was recognized for his advocacy with the American Society of Human Genetics. Andrew, Michael, Darcy, and Joe all received other additional national awards. We added 1 distinguished university professor this year, Jonathan Haynes. We're in the process of looking at applications for this year, and a number of teaching awards to Catherine, Lisa, and Cheryl, and some special awards to Susan, Rachel, Paul, and Para, again, in their fields and areas of activity. We recognized 2 of our cancer investigators at the Ohio Cancer Research Annual Dinner this past year, and we're looking forward to the upcoming event in a few weeks. And finally, and most importantly perhaps, Alan Deal was recognized at our alumni event with the Case Medal for Excellence in Health Sciences Innovation for his, frankly, pretty incredible and dedicated effort as chair of biochemistry, rebuilding that department in a way that Richard Hansen would be proud. And so thank you, Alan, for that effort. It is not easy to rebuild a department. I'm going to move on to medical education. I mentioned Lena briefly, but we had some remarkable accomplishments in our MD program. We are waiting for the LCME letter, and although Leah and I aren't quite sure what that letter is going to read, let's just say we had some pleasant conversations with the leadership of the LCME at the AAMC this past weekend, so we're optimistic that we're not on their hit list, but we got to read what we get. They still do wonder how we consider ourselves one medical school. I didn't tell them our plans to be even bigger, better, and faster, but be that as it may. We are one of the first schools in the country, you'll see Cowell Sage, which is introducing our first-year medical students to a 4-year-long engagement with geriatrics patients so that we really help our medical students appreciate the issues and needs of the older and expanding older population early on. We are expanding the student-run health clinic. We've hired learning specialists for the diversity of our backgrounds of our students. There is a downside to being a bent arrow. Not everybody comes in with that same recent biochemistry background. So we've got to make sure that they can all be successful. And we have an amazing activity in our emerging suite and our virtual education activities. We've had a remarkable, successful research day, which I'll mention, and we've hired Kate Weber to help us with our AI in our curriculum. Here's some details about our medical education program. So first, we are the only school in the state in which more of our medical students stay in the state of Ohio than grew up here. Now, the state of Ohio, all of your tax dollars go off to pay the public schools, and the public schools, we're private, all, for the most part, educate Ohio-based students. At least half of those students, paid for by your tax dollars, leave the state. So it's a brain loss for the state of Ohio. So we're the only brain gain for the state of Ohio. 54 stayed for residencies, and only 29 grew up in the state. They stayed mostly here at our medical centers, which is terrific as far as I'm concerned. And you can see on the right-hand side the top residency specialties where our students placed this past year. What I'm actually most excited about is on the left-hand side. We used to be a primary care-oriented medical school. We are now a subspecialty-oriented medical school, and we can't do that without the incredible support of the chairs of our departments in these competitive specialties. So it turns out, according to the AMA, over the past 10 years, we are in the top 10% of all medical schools in the country, placing students in each one of these, I think you would agree, arguably are the most competitive residency areas in the country. And I have to ask myself, because I don't really know the answer, if we place in the top 10% for all of these areas, how many medical schools match us? Because we're in the top 10% for each one, and how many are in the top 10% for all? And I suspect vanishingly few. So I think we should be proud of that accomplishment for our students. I'll mention student awards as well. 4 of our students received national awards, including 2 support for mission trips to the Philippines. In our graduate education, we have stabilized, although it was bumpy for a few years, our first-year master's program, and overall the enrollment has gone up slightly. I'm proud of the fact that our anesthesia program continues to do remarkably well, and we have a new computational genomics medicine and a few other undergraduate curriculum courses that are being developed as well We're supporting our students more than ever with mentoring support, and I'm delighted with the effort of our faculty submitting training grant awards for our graduate students with a 40% hit rate, which I think is terrific. I mentioned the Student Research Day, which was held just about a month ago. It was quite remarkable, with 290 students presenting their data across our whole variety of MD and PhD programs. All of our institutions were represented quite actively. A number of awards were given out. It was a remarkable day with a huge amount of energy, and I was delighted to be able to participate. Other activities in our clinical and translational research area under the CTSA is an emphasis on training a broad and supportive workforce. Here are the activities that take place. Some of them are academic, if you will, K-12, T32, with a large number of slots under Grace McComsey's leadership. A very productive group of mid-career support through Atlas and online team training programs. So this is really a vibrant opportunity for any of you involved in clinical translational research to receive additional training and support to help you move ahead. I mentioned the Institute for Population and Community Health. Let me tell you a little more detail about that. It's taken a number of years to get it up and running. Erica has taken on the challenge as being the first and interim director. Some of us might have shied away from that responsibility, but she's taken it on with a charge, and I'm delighted. It's going to be complicated because it is a cross-school, cross-institution effort. You can see the supporting institutions on the activities rather on the left-hand side, and we plan to appoint an associate director for each one of our schools and colleges and the university, and to work collaboratively across the city as well with external partners and organizations. There hasn't been a coordinated effort in population community health here at the university, frankly, and not in the city. And I like to remind folks that it is the pre-patient we're talking about, all of us in our community settings, home, environment, cities, towns, city of Cleveland, rural areas, to really do a better job of understanding and managing our health before we end up in an emergency room or a patient office at one of our hospitals. So the goal is really to develop both coordinated research and education, understand interventional research, and understand how to implement changes in practice and approaches to health in our community, and do it through the entire continuum of lives of us as individuals, let alone as patients. Let me move on to our academic community. We've all been reminded about the importance of creating a productive culture for us to work in, to do our research, to be engaged with. We are a complicated set of individuals with differing opinions and perspectives, and certainly in this political environment, even more so. We have a number of career development efforts that we pursue through the school and through the university, and I'm delighted that we've had, over the past 4 years, 55 endowed professorship investitures. We have an accountability management system which is now up and running and receives reports from individuals who are concerned about their interactions with others at whatever level. And we have a professionalism committee that helps us keep on target. In terms of, in terms of our professorships, you'll see 12 professorships just in this past year. And if you carefully look, you'll see that it's split down the middle, 6 and 6 by sex. So we are now operationally moving ahead with a 50-50 balance, which I hope is okay to everybody in the room. In terms of philanthropy, again, a complicated subject, but our development team works incredibly hard finding resources outside of the norm for us to be successful, both support for scholarships, for research. Our student support has been an additional commitment of $12.5 million over the past 4 years into our scholarship support. And even more so, more than $107 million has come in to help us with our research support. Now, I have to remind you, as all of us should remember, that when we chat with any one of you, someone in the city, any one of our alums, anyone who's a friend of the university, and engage with them on supporting us, that means something called attainment, which is pledges, endowments, estate gifts, and outright gifts. So it doesn't all come in today, but it is a commitment. And so we are today benefiting what happened a decade ago or 15 years ago as people finish up their lives and provide us with resources. But the attainments are official commitments, and so these dollars will roll in over time. It just isn't all here today. But keep at it, and we'll help you out as best we possibly can. So let me move on to looking forward about what we want to focus on for the school and enter into the next phase of our strategic plan. So I'm going to start with rankings, go a little bit through a little more details about our research, our financial situation, and then give you an update about what the university is doing to help us brand, and then I'll finish up with some comments about our strategic plan. So where are we? So we're ranked 22 worldwide in the United States in the Leiden World Rankings, in large part because of our citations and patents and things like that. As I mentioned, we're 26 and a little stifled at the moment in terms of our Blue Ridge ranking. We are a U.S. News Tier 1 school. You can see our top performing departments, and I'm delighted with both our basic science departments and our clinical departments for what they contribute to our Blue Ridge ranking. Blue Ridge includes all of the research support received at the NIH level from the Lerner Research Institute at the Cleveland Clinic, but those numbers don't filter into our departments. So if we layered that on, I'm sure, frankly, that a number of these departments would be well ahead from where they're officially named. But I'm proud of the opportunities that we have. And if I look at those that are a little under, neurosciences and pharmacology, I think they are on incredible trajectories to move up in those rankings in the near future. And we have the chair of UH medicine here and of dermatology, and both of them see themselves ranked here at 31, which is actually pretty good. And I'm sure that we can move you both up over the next few years. I mentioned our patent applications, and here's the official numbers. This is a pretty good number. As I said, it helps us rank about 22nd in the world in total number of patent applications, both U.S. and foreign. So keep at it, because I think the commercialization strategy is pretty important for us moving forward. Where are we with actual funding? So the budget of the School of Medicine, we're all going to misinterpret this, but let me see if I can do as good a job as I can explaining it. So we're at $630 million. That includes all of our research income and includes LRI research, which is, to be honest with you, a pass-through, so it comes in and goes out almost equally. So that budget, $630 million, is 40% of the university, which is almost $1.6 billion. If you remove the central operations of the university and just compare us with the other schools, we're 60% of the entire budgets of the schools of the university. On the other hand, we only bring in 18% of the school's tuition. And our endowment revenue, especially as a component of our research, is under that of the other schools and the university. So we are much more reliant and therefore at risk for our research budget, which is almost 80% of the university and of the School of Medicine as well. Part of our, if you will, activity with the university is to look at our head count, and you can see the distribution here. And I mention it because the IDC indirect costs that we pay the university are incurred based on our head count, our space, library usage, central costs, buildings, operations, and university leaders, and we're apportioned the cost based on our total head count. Our total head count is large, and it includes 300 odd faculty that are hospital-based, for which we don't receive any income or support from our hospitals to pay our costs for having faculty at the university. So it's a cost to us to have faculty at Metro, Clinic, UH, and the VA. That's our situation, and we're glad to have a large faculty, but it does influence our cost basis. If you look at financial trends, as I've noted, we've been a little bit flat, more flat than the others, both because of our tuition and activity and stable number of students in our programs, and our research base, as I mentioned, has only gone up 1% in the past 4 years. To me, this represents opportunity for us to think hard about how we can be more successful. We're going to have a bit of a crunch this coming year, because if you look at the budgetary framework that we were asked to do by the board, it is, as I mentioned, we're a large part of the budget, so we're some 60% of the margin requested by the board for the entire university, and yet we are expecting a decrease in research and training, a decrease in IDC, and we were asked to then have a $25 million reduction in our budget, and we've currently spaced out about $17 million, so we have another 8 to go, which we'll be spending the next quarter pursuing. Where are we in terms of the first quarter of our finances? Well, our tuition went up modestly. We've had a decrease in our research expenditures and therefore our IDC, in large part because our scientists, not surprisingly, looking at the situation of now no budget for the NIH and worried about what was going to happen to that budget in the last few months, have decreased their expenditures. I'd like them to hook it up, but I can just imagine the issues that are happening at the individual level. And yet our faculty and staff salaries went up, so the obligation to support went up, and our services and supplies are almost flat. So that's where we are. I'm going to give you 2 more little pieces of information, and then we'll move on to our strategic plan upcoming. Next week, Leah Kleeker is going to join us as our School of Medicine Marketing Director, joining a very strong team of our revamped university marketing and communication structure. We are entering into the year of the bicentennial for the university, so there's been a huge amount of background effort to try to build the brand of the university. So let me tell you where we are. I hope you enjoy it. So the one brand positioning for the university is where everything connects. Case Western Reserve University creates the environment in which people can bring their whole selves and come together to forge new ideas and paths forward. It's these connections, intersections that lead to impact. And the verbiage for that impact is be a force. At Case Western Reserve University, individual forces collide to become something greater. This is what happens when people, ideas, and purpose converge and accelerate. Now you can see this is very much of a university initiative with the brand, as you can see, and I sort of like the coloring at the bottom. Now let me see if I can make this work. Probably can.
Our world is shaped by forces. Forces like you. At Case Western Reserve University, forces build momentum. This is where you and others collide to create breakthroughs.
No single person could accomplish alone.
This is where your force ignites. This isn't just about gaining information.
It's about transformation.
This is where everything connects. It's a place that doesn't just require multiple perspectives. It demands them. Where productive collisions fuel our purpose and the impossible becomes inevitable. It's a university built to launch, a community created to be a force in the world. Forces leave legacies. They reinvent what's possible. They change each of us too.
Be a force that moves the world.
Case Western Reserve University.
Be a force. Be a force.
Be a force.
Okay, how many visuals of the School of Medicine were in that? 10. You want me to show it to you again? So there were 10. And I counted, guess what, that's my job, so there are about 22, so it's pretty close to where it should be. So the good news is, subtly, not overtly, subtly, the university knows it's all about the School of Medicine, okay? Subtly. And we're bringing on, I think will be spectacular, assistant for us as we move ahead. Where are we going to go next? So we've had a strategic plan 21 to 26. Here we are 27 to 31. So that's fiscal year, so it'll start this coming July. We're going to keep our topics, and I'm going to encourage groups to get together to develop aims, goals, key results, and resources that it would take. We're going to start with our senior associate deans at each one of the hospitals and myself, working with the basic science chairs and the vice deans, bring that to the clinical chairs and to faculty council, to the staff advisory committee. We're going to get this sort of formally organized in the next couple of weeks and give some directions out and give groups 2 months. So we have something back in February. That'll allow each of these groups to look at each other's work and then come back with a final draft come May. So it takes a while to really go through the iterative process. I don't think it's that complicated, but we're going to want voices and perspectives and refinement as we move ahead. So what are the issues that we face? So first, I think it's pretty obvious. We have an unclear environment for federal funding. There is a significant concern, especially for medical students, of access to student loans, and the LCME recognizes that we have a very, very high debt burden for our medical students. And for the other students, whether they be PhD or masters or even undergraduates, we have to do a better job of making sure people know why they get educated here and what job they're going to have when they get out. I think we can, but we just have to do a better job with that. It's obvious, maybe confusing to some, but obvious that we should invest in what we do best, which is innovation and discovery research, high quality medical care and education, and care for and focus on our community. And what are our innovative solutions? Alternatives to federal funding through commercialization, which I've mentioned, mentoring our trainees to make sure they can be successful and enjoy their time here. Let me tell you, we really do that well for the MDs and for our PhDs. We can do it across the board. I think we need to step up the active partnership with our hospital-based faculty at all levels. Our centers, which we have, many of them cut across our hospitals. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have a meeting soon with the hospital leaders and the academic side to talk about improved collaborative efforts in all that we do. And we need to be able to embrace and invest in new technologies and the use, whatever that is, of artificial intelligence. So moving ahead, we're about to receive our LCME report. That'll help manage the priorities for the medical education program. In research, I still think we need to hire additional faculty, again, across our sites, improve our number and success for our multi-investigator grants, both Foundation U and P awards, whatever the environment is, just have to run faster, whatever that pay line is. Help our translational efforts in commercialization proceed. Help with pre-commercialization funding support through CAW and other activities, and take advantage of the variety of resources that we have, Harrington, School of Medicine, Biomedical Engineering, and the like. And that means expanding our venture funding efforts and startup support. If we need to become more entrepreneurial, I think we know how to do it. We just have to be more successful at it. And in addition, one of the key factors in our international recognition certainly is our citations. And we still, guess what, struggle with hospital-based faculty reminding themselves that they're at the hospital and forgetting that they're a faculty member, which is okay for the individual publication, but not okay for the School of Medicine. So let me lead the thoughts on our research programs, and again, focusing on where we're successful. It's obvious that our cancer program is one of the best in the country, as is our CTSA. We had a visiting committee meeting on Friday in which we discussed our Cleveland brain activities. And it's pretty obvious to me that, even though I'm a cancer doc, that our neurosciences program is as good as our cancer program and should move up quickly into number 2. And if we think about it, the unmet need there is equivalent to that of cancer. And I think we're ready to do so. And I think Paul's first translational glial research symposium yesterday is an indication of both the vibrancy of the science and the quality and the need that we have. Now, within that, and every time I mention it, I get a, what are you talking about? But there's enough scientists here in the room that will help explain it. The way to help us distinguish ourselves in cancer and neuroscience is actually to consider a cancer neuroscience initiative that brings those two groups together. It's a new field, a new area. It's really intriguing to me, and I think it's something we can get ourselves on the map for. I've talked a lot about population and community health and mental health. The university has a major interest and investment in developing mental health, and we can help them do that. I've mentioned a number of times this morning our opportunities in therapeutics, and I think we do a remarkable job and can move that ahead as well. Immunology, inflammation, infection. Again, we have an incredible wealth of expertise in this area. It's unfortunately the same place as population community health was 5 years ago, where the Brain Health Initiative was 3 years ago. So it's time for us to coalesce with our hospital partners what we want to do in immunology, inflammation, and infection. I've just listed a few things here, but we have the wherewithal, the scientists, and the investigators to really push that forward, and I look forward to doing that in earnest over the next 5 years. So with that, thank you for joining us.